I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but here we are. My name is Mark, and I want to tell you what happened with my wife, Lisa. We've been together for about 10 years, married for 6, and I thought we had a pretty solid relationship. She was always a bit of a bitch, honestly. She's sharp-tongued, quick to lie when it suited her, and she's got this way of twisting things so she comes out looking like the victim. But I loved her, or at least I thought I did. Things started to feel off a few months ago. Lisa became more distant, spending hours on her phone, and she'd get annoyed if I tried to look at her screen. I didn't think much of it at first. I figured maybe she was stressed with work or some personal stuff. She's a lawyer, so her job can get intense sometimes. But then I noticed little things, missed calls, strange messages that she'd quickly delete whenever I walked into the room. She'd brush it off with that bitchy smirk, saying I was just being paranoid, that I was accusing her of nonsense. That annoyed me, but I let it slide, because I didn't want to start fights over nothing. What really pushed me over the edge was a sequence of texts I accidentally saw on her phone. I was sitting on the couch scrolling through some photos when I noticed a message notification pop up. It was from someone named Jackson, and the message was, "Can't wait to see you tonight. It's been too long." My stomach dropped. I looked closer, the conversation was ongoing and the tone was intimate, flirty even. They were planning to meet up, and the messages weren't just about some business or casual stuff. They were talking about sex, about how much they missed each other, and one message even said, "We need to keep this secret or everything we worked for will fall apart." My first thought was, who the hell is Jackson? That's when I started digging. I went through her email, her social media messages, and I found out that Jackson wasn't just some guy she was texting. Turns out Jackson is a college interviewer. Yeah, an actual college interviewer, who later became her advisor. I couldn't believe it. How the hell did she manage to keep this secret? From me, I mean they weren't just talking about casual stuff. It was obvious this had been going on for a while, probably since she was trying to get her kid into the college he was interviewing for. It was such a betrayal on so many levels, cheating on me, lying about her relationship with him, and worst of all, risking our daughter's future because of her reckless, selfish behavior. I was furious, of course. I confronted her that night when she came home late from some work event. I've been stewing all day, my mind racing at 1,000 miles an hour. When she walked into the room, I didn't even bother with small talk. I just threw the phone on the table and asked, "Who is Jackson? And what the hell is going on between you two?" She looked at me like I'd just slapped her. Her eyes narrowed, and she spun some bullshit about how I was crazy, that I was reading too much into a few innocent messages. She started to get defensive, her voice shrill and bitchy. "You're paranoid. Jackson's just a guy I met through work. I don't know what you think. You saw, but I swear there's nothing there." I could see right through her lies. She was trying to deny everything, but the evidence was all over her phone. I felt this mix of rage, heartbreak, and disbelief. How could she be so callous, so dishonest? I had trusted her for years, and she was out there messing around with our daughter's college advisor, someone who was supposed to be helping her, guiding her future. I told her I knew about the messages, about the affair. She scoffed at me, called me jealous and paranoid, but I wasn't buying it anymore. I knew the truth, and I knew I couldn't just ignore it. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything I'd read, every lie she'd told me. I felt betrayed, betrayed in a way I never thought possible. This wasn't just adultery. This was a full-blown betrayal of our trust, of our entire life together. I didn't know what to do next, whether to confront her again, to pack my bags, or just to sit there and stew in this hell of my own making. But one thing was clear. My entire perception of her, of us, was shattered in that moment. The next day was a blur. I couldn't focus on work, couldn't even think straight. All I kept seeing were those messages, that smug look on her face when she denied everything. Lisa is a master at playing the victim. She's bitchy, she lies constantly, and she always manages to make herself look innocent. But I wasn't buying her act anymore. I had proof, and I knew I had to confront her again, but this time I planned to be more strategic. By afternoon, I decided I needed to dig deeper. I started pulling her email account, her social media, anything that could give me more clarity. I was stunned to find out that her messages with Jackson went back almost a year. They had a whole series of exchanges, flirty, suggestive, sometimes explicit. And the worst part, there were messages where they talked about plans to meet, about how they were sneaking around, about keeping everything secret from me. I also discovered that Jackson was not just some random guy. He was a college interviewer for our daughter Emily's future university, a guy she met when Emily was applying. That's what made this so explosive. She wasn't just cheating on me, she was risking Emily's future, messing around with her advisor. I found myself feeling sick. It was a punch to the gut knowing she'd been lying to me for months, using her daughter's future as a cover for her own selfish desires. I kept asking myself, how stupid was I to miss all these signs? How blind had I been, trusting her to be honest, to be faithful? I also checked her phone logs. And that's when I found the really damning evidence. Dozens of texts, sometimes late at night, sometimes during work hours. They weren't just talking about college stuff. They were talking about sex, about how much they missed each other, about what they wanted to do when they finally met up. The messages were intimate, almost like they'd planned a future together. That was when I realized this wasn't a fling. This was serious, an affair that had been ongoing for months, maybe longer. I was furious, but mostly I was heartbroken. I mean, I knew Lisa was bitchy and manipulative, but I always thought she loved me, that she was committed to our marriage. Turns out that was a lie, and all the while she's playing her games, lying, sneering at me, pretending everything's fine. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind, so naive. I knew I had to confront her again. I waited until she was home that evening. I was boiling inside, my fists clenched, my mind racing. When she walked into the house, I just snapped. I threw the phone at her, the evidence glaring on the screen. "What the hell is this, Lisa? Are you cheating with Jackson? Are you screwing around with our daughter's college advisor?" Her eyes widened in shock, then she started laughing, that bitchy laugh that makes my blood boil. "Oh, please, Mark, you're overreacting. That's just some stupid work flirtation. You're jealous, paranoid as usual. You don't have any proof." I looked her straight in the eyes and said, "I have everything I need. The messages, the emails, the logs. This isn't just some stupid flirtation. You're having an affair with Jackson, and I know it's been going on for months. Don't even try to deny it anymore." She scoffed again, rolled her eyes, and said, "You're making a big deal out of nothing. Jackson's just a friend. And as for the messages, you're reading too much into them. You're always so insecure, Mark. You're jealous of everything and everyone." I felt a mix of rage and sadness. How could she lie so easily? How could she pretend she hadn't been screwing around with someone who was supposed to be helping our daughter? I wanted to scream, to break something, but I held back. I told her I'd had enough, that I needed time to think about what to do. I told her I wasn't going to tolerate her lying anymore. Her reaction: she shrugged, looked at me like I was some inconvenience, and said, "Whatever you want, Mark. Do whatever you think is best, but you're not going to control me. I'm done pretending to be the perfect wife for your peace of mind." That's when I saw the truth. She didn't care about me, about us, or even about Emily. She was only thinking of herself, her ego, her selfish needs. I felt a deep, burning anger inside, but also this crushing sense of betrayal. My whole life, I thought I knew her. Turns out I didn't know anything. That night I couldn't sleep again. I kept replaying everything, trying to understand how I'd missed so many signs. I kept asking myself why someone would throw everything away like this, especially knowing the risk it posed to our family. It was like a punch to the stomach every time I thought about Emily's future, her hopes, her plans. All gone, just because Lisa couldn't keep her legs closed or stay faithful. I realized I had to decide what to do next, but honestly, I was already leaning toward ending it. The trust was completely broken. I couldn't look her in the eye anymore and pretend everything was okay. The days that followed were some of the worst I've ever experienced. I felt like I was walking around in a fog, numb and angry all at once. I kept revisiting that moment when I saw the messages, when I realized how deeply she'd betrayed me, and more importantly, how she'd risked everything for some stupid affair with Jackson. The fact that Jackson was her college advisor just made everything worse. That wasn't some random fling. It was calculated, reckless, and it threatened our daughter's entire future. I couldn't get the images out of my head. Her lying to me, her sneering tone when she told me I was paranoid. And Jackson, this guy who was supposed to be helping Emily, had become her lover. I kept questioning whether I was overreacting or if I was justified feeling this hurt. Honestly, I was pretty sure I was right. I mean, what kind of person screws around with their daughter's college advisor? That's not just cheating, that's risking everything for a quick fuck. I decided I needed to get some clarity, so I started digging even more. I went through her email archives, her social media, and her phone backups. It was sickening to see how many messages there were, how long this had been going on. They exchanged flirtatious messages, explicit ones, and plans to meet up. I found out about the times they'd rendezvoused, how she'd made excuses, lied about where she was going, all the while sneaking around like a damn criminal. I could feel my blood boiling each time I uncovered more lies, more betrayal. And then I found something that just about broke me. A series of emails between her and Jackson, discussing how her involvement with him was their little secret, and how she was worried about getting caught. They even talked about covering their tracks, about how to keep their messages hidden from prying eyes. I realized then that this was no innocent flirtation. This was calculated, planned, and deeply dangerous. It was a full-blown affair, and she had no remorse. I was furious, yes, but I was also devastated. I'd believed in her. I thought she loved me and was committed to our family, and her actions proved otherwise. She was a manipulative, selfish bitch who didn't care about us, about Emily or me. I felt sick thinking about how she'd been lying to my face, hiding her affair, all while acting like the victim when I confronted her. That feeling of betrayal was indescribable. It was like a punch to my gut, a betrayal of everything I thought we had. I had to confront her again. I didn't want to just accuse her blindly. I had proof, and I wanted her to know I wasn't going to be played for a fool anymore. I waited until she came home late that evening, and when she walked through the door, I was ready. I'd printed out some of the most incriminating emails and had her messages open on my phone. I looked her dead in the eyes and said, "We need to talk. I found everything. The messages, the emails, the plans you made with Jackson. You've been screwing around with our daughter's college advisor, someone who's supposed to be helping Emily get into university. How could you do this?" She looked at me with that same bitchy smirk like I was bothering her. "Oh, please, Mark," she sneered. "You're overreacting. That's just some work flirtation. You're insecure. You always think everyone's out to get you. Jackson's just a friend, nothing more." I shook my head. I was so angry I could barely speak. "No, Lisa, it's not just some flirtation. It's an affair, and it's been going on for months. You're risking our daughter's future, your reputation, everything, just because you're a selfish, manipulative bitch." Her eyes flickered for a moment, then she threw her head back and laughed that dismissive laugh of hers. "You're so paranoid, Mark. You always think the worst. Maybe I should just leave you since you're so insecure and jealous all the time." I felt my fists clenching. I wanted to punch her in the face, to shake her and make her see reason, but I knew that wouldn't help. Instead, I told her to leave. I said I needed space, time to process everything because I was done pretending. She scoffed again, acting like I was the crazy one, and stomped out of the house. That was the last straw for me. I knew the marriage was over, but I also knew I had to be smart about what came next. I sat alone that night, staring at the ceiling, trying to understand how someone I loved could do something so reckless and damaging. I kept going over every word, every lie she told, every moment I missed the signs. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and angry, so much anger that it scared me. I'd always been a cautious, trusting guy, but Lisa turned me into someone I barely recognized. I realized that from now on, I had to protect myself, protect Emily, and figure out what the hell to do with the wreckage she left behind. The next few days were a nightmare. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, and I kept thinking about everything she'd done, how she'd lied for months, risking our daughter's future just for some sick thrill with Jackson. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her sneering face, her dismissive attitude, that smug way she had of acting like she was better than everyone else. I kept asking myself how I could have been so blind, so naive. I thought I knew her, but all I'd known was a version she put on for the world, not who she really was behind closed doors. Meanwhile, Emily was oblivious. At least I hoped she was. She was so excited about college, about her future, and I didn't want her to find out what her mother had been up to. But I knew it was only a matter of time before she discovered the truth. The emails, the messages, they weren't exactly subtle, and I had no idea how I was going to explain this to her without breaking her heart. It hurt enough knowing I had been betrayed, but Emily deserved honesty, even if it meant shattering her view of her mother. I decided I needed to take some control. I started planning my next moves, consulting a lawyer, thinking about separation, and figuring out how to protect Emily from all this. I also knew I had to be cautious. Lisa was busy lying her ass off to everyone else, spinning her usual bullshit about how I was crazy and jealous, painting herself as the victim. I couldn't let her know I was onto her completely, at least not yet. I needed evidence, facts, and a plan to deal with her. I also reached out to a close friend, Mike, who's been through a messy divorce before. I told him everything, and honestly, I was surprised how quickly he understood. "Dude," he said, "she's been screwing around and risking everything. Your marriage, Emily's future, her reputation. You gotta protect your kid and yourself. Whatever you do, don't let her manipulate you into staying if she's cheating. You deserve better than that." That advice hit me hard. Sometimes hearing it from someone outside the situation makes you realize what you have to do. But I was still angry, so angry I could barely keep it together. I wanted to confront her again, to yell, to demand answers, though I knew that wouldn't help. I just needed her to know I wasn't going to be played anymore. I started amassing more evidence, saving every message, every email, every piece of proof I could get. I knew this was going to blow up, and honestly, I was already mentally preparing myself for the fallout. One day, I found a new piece of damning evidence. A message exchange between her and Jackson that confirmed they planned to meet up again. The way she talked about him, the way she dismissed me, the lies she told her friends, everything was laid bare. I felt like my entire world was collapsing. I was furious at her, but also deeply hurt. How could she do this to our family? How could the woman I loved and trusted throw everything away for some meaningless sex? That night I sat her down again. This time I was cold, calm, and deliberate. I played her the messages I'd saved, watched her reaction closely. Her face turned pale, her eyes darted around, and her usual bitchy smirk was replaced by a look of panic. She tried to deny it once more, but I cut her off. "I have enough evidence to destroy you," I said. "This isn't just some fling. You've been screwing around with our daughter's college advisor, risking everything for your own selfish needs. And the worst part, you don't even care. You're only worried about saving your own ass." She snapped back with some fake tears, trying to manipulate me, but I was beyond caring. I told her she could leave, that I was done with her lies, that I was taking everything I could, our house, whatever assets I could get, and most of all, custody of Emily. I knew this was coming, and deep down, I was already preparing myself for the worst. I just couldn't stay married to someone I didn't trust, someone who would throw away her marriage and her daughter's future just for some quick sex with a guy who was supposed to be helping her. I watched her pack her bags that night. She was bitchy, angry, and still trying to spin her usual lies, but I saw through them all. I knew she was scared, but not of me, of losing her control, her reputation, her life. As she left, she threw one last snide comment saying, "You'll regret this, Mark. You always do." I just watched her go, feeling emptier than I ever had before. This was the end of something I'd thought was forever. And honestly, I was scared of what was coming next, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to let her ruin our daughter's future or destroy everything I'd worked for. The days after Lisa left were a blur of paperwork, phone calls, and endless thoughts racing through my head. I didn't sleep much, and every time I closed my eyes, I saw her sneering face, that manipulative smirk she always wore when she thought she was getting away with something. I felt betrayed on every level, as a husband, as a father, and as a man who thought he knew the woman he married. The betrayal cut deep, but what hurt even more was knowing she had risked Emily's future just to feed her own selfish needs. That realization made everything worse. I immediately hired a lawyer to start the process of separation and to get legal custody of Emily. I knew Lisa would do everything she could to twist things, manipulate her way back in, or even try to spin the story so she'd come out looking like the victim. That's who she was, a master manipulator. I had to be careful, strategic, and completely prepared. I saved every message, every email, every piece of evidence I could find. I wanted to make sure I had everything in order before I made any moves. Meanwhile, Emily was still blissfully unaware of the full extent of what was happening. I was terrified that if she ever found out how Lisa had been lying to us, it would devastate her. I knew I had to be honest with her eventually, but I was holding off for the moment. I wanted to keep her safe from the chaos, so I kept the truth about Lisa's affair as far from her as possible. All I could do was be there for her and try to shield her from the worst of it. As the days went on, I realized I needed to focus on myself too. I started going to therapy, not because I thought I was crazy, but because I needed help processing everything. I couldn't let this destroy me. I had to stay strong, not just for Emily, but for myself. I also started reaching out to friends and family, telling them what had happened. Their reactions ranged from shock to anger, but most of them just told me to do what was best for me and Emily. That support was a lifeline. One particular moment that hit me hard was when I found out Lisa had taken our shared savings without telling me. She drained accounts, probably to start a new life or run away. I was furious. How could she be so reckless, so selfish? That was when it really hit me. She didn't care about us anymore. Her actions had consequences, and I was the one left to pick up the pieces. I vowed to protect Emily and make sure Lisa couldn't hurt us anymore. That meant being smart, staying calm, and fighting for what's right. The most difficult part was dealing with my own feelings. Honestly, I was angry, devastated, and full of regret. I kept asking myself where I went wrong, why I didn't see the signs, why I trusted her so blindly. It was a bitter pill to swallow, but I also knew I had no choice but to move forward, to rebuild my life from the wreckage she left behind. I had to do it for Emily's sake and for my own sanity. As the weeks passed, I started to see some clarity. The pain didn't go away, but I was learning to live with it. I refused to let her win or make me feel guilty. My focus shifted to protecting Emily, making sure she knew she was loved, and rebuilding my confidence. I couldn't erase what had happened, but I could control how I responded to it. I knew this ordeal was shaping me into someone stronger, even if it didn't feel like it right now. I also started to think about the future. It was clear Lisa wasn't coming back, and I had to accept that our marriage was over. I knew I had to be prepared for her next move, probably a smear campaign or some kind of attempt to spin her way out of this mess. But I was ready. I had enough evidence, enough proof of her lies and betrayal to protect myself and Emily. I just wanted to put this chapter behind us, even if I knew it would take a long time to heal. The trust was gone, and I realized how fragile life and love could be. But I also learned that sometimes you have to fight for your family, even when everything seems lost. It's been a few months now since Lisa walked out that door, and honestly, I'm still trying to put all the pieces back together. The house feels emptier, quieter somehow, even though I've filled it with Emily's laughter and the mundane chaos of everyday life. That betrayal changed everything. My trust in her, my sense of security, and even my view of who I thought she was. But amid all the pain, I've learned something crucial. I can survive this. I have to, not just for Emily, but for myself. The court case is ongoing, and I've managed to secure custody of Emily. Her future is still uncertain because of Lisa's reckless actions, but I'm doing everything I can to shield her from the fallout. I want her to know she's loved, that she's not responsible for her mother's mistakes. That's the hardest part, knowing she's caught in the middle of all this mess. And yet, I have to be strong enough to protect her, to give her stability. Looking back, I see how Lisa's manipulations and lies almost destroyed us. She always had a bitchy way about her, a way of twisting the truth and playing the victim. But I also see that I was blind to her true nature for too long. Trusting her was my mistake. I let her lie and manipulate, thinking she was just a little insecure or stressed. But it was something much darker beneath that surface, a selfishness that knew no bounds. Now I focus on rebuilding my life. I've started therapy, working through the anger and betrayal, learning how to forgive myself for not seeing the signs sooner and how to move forward. It's a slow process, but I know I can come out of this stronger. I've learned that some people you love can turn out to be someone you never really knew, how they manipulate and deceive, even when they're supposed to be your partner. The pain is real, but so is the resilience. Most of all, I've come to understand that standing up for myself and Emily was the right choice. I refuse to let Lisa's reckless actions define us. I want our daughter to see that even in the face of betrayal, there's still hope, strength, and the courage to rebuild. I'll never forget what she did, but I refuse to let it ruin the rest of my life. That betrayal hurt so deeply, but it also taught me to value honesty, loyalty, and trust more than ever. In the end, I realized that life doesn't always go the way you plan. Sometimes the people closest to you can hurt you the most. But you have a choice. You can fall apart, or you can pick yourself up, learn from it, and move on. I've chosen the latter. I may have been betrayed by someone I loved, but I'm not defeated. I'll keep fighting for my family, for Emily's future, and for my own peace. Because even after everything, I know I deserve that.